All right. Hikari Ari, and I think that's how she means for me to read her name. Hikari Ari, who lives in Las Vegas, says, what's a good way to remember the stroke order? Well, I'm glad you're trying to remember the stroke order, which means you're trying to learn how to write the kanji or hiragana or whatever. Well, it's very important if you're writing to get the stroke order right, because once you get fast, if your stroke order is bad, your kanji will look crappy. And the way the kanji is created is to make it pretty much faster to write. That's pretty much why it's that way. And back in the day, you would write with a brush. So the way your brush moves across the paper, very important, that stroke order, or else you won't be writing a letter that looks right, okay? Why do I mean that? Well, let's look at this. There are 3 types of strokes. And forgive me, this is what I call them. The fade out, which is this one, which means the brush comes off the paper a little bit at a time and it just fades out, all right? Then we've got what's called the dead stop. Just stops. By the way, in Japanese they would say tomeru, and the fade is what? Oh gosh, fade out. I don't remember. I know the other one. The other one is this one, which I call a bounce fade, which is a haneru, which means it bounces, right? So haneru, where your brush goes, comes up, and I want you to look at this character in particular, this hiragana I. Notice that from there it goes up and starts this new stroke. And so if you're writing it really fast, sometimes these get connected. Okay, that the brush doesn't actually come off the paper sometimes. So it's very important. But if you know these fades, you'll know that a dead stop means you came from this direction to get to it. You'll know that a bounce fade comes from this direction. You know the direction based on that. Also, if you're fading out, you know that it comes that way. Well, I think your bigger question is, well, how do I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what stroke order is first? Every kanji is going to be a little bit different, but there's sort of a uniqueness, not a uniqueness, a rule of thumb that you could use, for example. Like, for example, let's look at that big kanji. This is the kanji to work, hataraku, and it's made with 3 separate other kanji, okay? This here is called the radical. Forgot what that's called in Japanese. Actually forgot what it's called, but we call it the radical. This is, by the way, ninben, the nin radical. It means human. Then you've got this middle part, which is heavy, omoi, and then you've got chikara, which means power. So person, heavy, power. By the way, this kanji doesn't exist in China. Did you know that? Did you know that there are some kanji that don't exist in China that Japanese made on? Without chikara, without that last part, it would just mean ugoku, which is in China. It means to move, to move something. But anyway, you write these in order, right? You write the radical and then the middle part and then the third part. So each one of these kanjis have their own separate stroke order. So you have to write them in their own separate stroke order. And the rule of thumb is top, down, left, right. And the highest part first coming down. But if it's in sections, if the kanji is built with sections, which is what they normally are, it's left to right each section. And then within that section, top, down, left, right. And then there's a formula for writing the boxes. You go, there's a formula for that. Always with this bottom stroke coming last. The more you learn, the more you'll know. I can't give you all of the rules, but that's sort of a rule of thumb. Great question. The question you just watched is part of a larger broadcast called YesJapan.com Ask a Teacher Live. All you have to do to get your question answered is follow us on Twitter, and when we make the stream, all you have to do is come into the chat room, double-click my name, and submit your question. I hope to see you all in the live stream. Bye.